Yo.
Another day, another tier. Hello everybody and welcome back to part 5 of the Cryptid Iceberg deep dive, and today we'll be entering tier 6 of the Cryptid Iceberg put together by Thy Cheshire Cat on Reddit. As usual, we have a whole bunch of fun and interesting entries to get through today, but as always, I encourage you folks to like and subscribe, comment down below, and ring that bell so you see all of my uploads when they go up. A lot of my viewers aren't actually subscribed to me. I want to hope to change that. And of course, with the comments down below, I would like to hear your thoughts on this video, on cryptids you want to see me do more of an expansive report on. Maybe talk about a few cryptids that aren't on this iceberg. I can say this now, but going into the rest of this iceberg, there are a couple of things that I noticed are, I don't want to say missing. Thy Cheshire Cat did a great job putting this whole thing together, but of course there are some interesting ones that I want to talk about, but they aren't actually on here. So I think in the finale, I'll put together a little section where I discuss the cryptids that weren't here that I want to talk about before I begin the 10th tier proper. But for now, I want to jump right into this tier of the iceberg, so let's proceed.
This guy's been going nuts. He freaked out my kids. My wife is in hysterics. She doesn't know what the hell is going on. I had to take the day off work to bring him back.
It's another African dinosaur who's making this up. It's a goddamn mystery.
Allosaurus had never seen.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys know by now I'm not a fan of African dinosaur cryptids. I just think they're lazy. Who wants these? But I guess I have to get on with the video. Translated from the Lingala language and meaning elephant killer, Imela Ntuka is a large dinosaur-type cryptid from the Cameroon and Congo region of Central Africa. Also known by the curious and far more fascinating names of Asikamoke, Nyagogunda, Ngabaname, Chipekwe, or Irizima. It is said to be an incredibly aggressive cryptid, possessing a single monocular horn on the center of its nose, a large reptilian body, a dragging tail, and elephant's hind feet. It is for this physical description, its aggressive behavior, and its herbivorous diet that several cryptozoologists have theorized that Imela Ntuka is just a living ceratopsid dinosaur, most commonly described as either a centrosaurine or styracosaurine. However, there is also a much more rational explanation that is just a misidentified rhinoceros, something that is corroborated by infamous cryptozoologist Lauren Coleman, who believes that Imela Ntuka is more of an amphibious or semi-aquatic rhinoceros that we have yet to discover. Finding any new megafauna in Africa is always a thrilling prospect, and the idea that this is just a rhinoceros we have yet to discover is also fascinating because, as far as we know, there are no monocular rhinoceros in Africa. We have two-horned rhinoceros in Africa, primarily the black and white rhinos. Monocular rhinoceros are seemingly limited to the Asian jungles, but this would still be fascinating to see. I don't think this is a dinosaur. I think it's just a rhino, but this is a popular cryptid for a reason. It also made it into Cobalt Press's Tome of Beasts, so I can't be that mad. In the days leading up to and following the harrowing and unfathomable disaster of Chernobyl in 1986, there would be sightings of a large black avian humanoid figure around the power plants. All those who came into contact with or saw this figure died subsequently in the weeks and months following, this figure coming to be known as the Black Bird of Chernobyl or the Chernobyl Birdman. Given the fact that this cryptid was seen before the disaster and during the events of the evacuation, if the testimony of a helicopter pilot is to be taken literally, people have identified the Chernobyl Birdman as being similar to the Mothman, perhaps even the same cryptid. Or at the very least, and much more fascinatingly, there is an entire race or species of cryptids that show up before disasters. Just avian versions of the Pokemon Absol. That's kind of cool. Again, much like the Mothman that it's similar to, the Chernobyl Birdman has not been seen since the year 1986, not since the original Chernobyl disaster. It really does make me wonder what other infamous disasters and horrible events in history have been preceded and followed by this sort of cryptid. Have there been sightings of this in other days and times? I'll have to look into that. Also, credit for this picture is to the video done by Bedtime Stories. Check it out, it's a great video. Not much more I can say on this cryptid here. We haven't had a sighting since 1986. This one's really funny because the CIA used it to fight communism in the 1950s. The Aswang is a vampiric cryptid coming to us from the Philippines, first sighted in the 1500s. Now, when I say it is a cryptid, that's a bit of a misnomer because the Aswang is actually an umbrella term used for different vampiric cryptids from the Philippines. The most infamous and popular of these vampiric figures probably being the Manananggal, which is that floating head of a woman that removes itself from a body. The organs kind of trail behind it and it eats unborn babies. You know, that one. What all of these vampire creatures have in common is that they are shapeshifters, they use some form of magic, and they are very trickster heavy. Another thing that a lot of people tend to agree on with sightings of the Aswang is that they either will detach parts of their body or almost all of their body in order to fly around after dark. During the day, they will look like the normal, average, everyday person, but at nightfall, that's when they become the true monster, which is very in line with a lot of vampiric legends from around the world. Again, I have to reiterate, the CIA used this in the 1950s to fight communism. This is hilarious. I will link below the video Wendigoon did talking about this incident because that's just such a ridiculous concept. We are now going to take a small little detour into the world of cryptid botany with Yateveo. On the rarely visited mesa of Tepui in the Guiana highlands of South America, there is said to be a large predatory tree known as Yateveo, a name translated to mean "I see you already," which is a terrifying name for a tree, oh my god. It is also said to have related cousins on islands in the Indian Ocean, most predominantly in Madagascar. The tree was first described to the Western world through the New York World magazine in 1874 by eminent botanist Carl Lech. It is also generally and widely believed to have been a hoax the whole way through. Which is a shame because the original letter he wrote describing this tree and the legends surrounding it and the way that it trapped its prey was fascinating. It's said to be a tree that mostly feeds on large insects but has developed a taste for humans as it grows larger and larger, with spined, thorny tendrils that reach out and grab hapless victims before curling them into the trunk where there is a large, almost pitcher plant reservoir awaiting them. But again, it's just a hoax, but it makes for some absolutely incredible pop art, and I definitely love this. Can we please get more cryptid plants in the world? Off the coast of the Shimagan Islands in Alaska on August the 10th of 1741, infamous naturalist Jorg Wilhelm Steller would cite and record what is by far the most puzzling species he may ever have identified, Simia marina danica, otherwise known as Steller's sea ape. If the name Jorg Steller seems even passingly familiar to you, it's because he has been one of the most prolific naturalists describing the Pacific Northwest and the species therein. He is responsible for describing the northern sea lion, the sea otter, the Steller sea eagle, Steller's jay, and numerous other species all along the Pacific coast of British Columbia, Washington State, Oregon, the Yukon, and Alaska. By all accounts, Jorg Wilhelm Steller knows what he is talking about and knows whereof he records in his journals, which makes it even more puzzling that we have this species, the Steller's sea ape, which was not described in the main journal with the other species he found. Based on what he put down in the book, we have a creature with a more baboon or canid-like face, no apparent forelimbs or flippers, and a strange shark-like caudal fin. By all accounts, this sounds like some sort of a strange mer person, but there's more of a mystery to be had here. Steller was excellent at observation. He would absolutely create the most perfect drawing that he could of the creature and his description therein. And of course, in this journal, we do have that. And the way that he describes it is very much an anime creature. He gives it facial expressions, he gives it movement, behavior, the way it paddled after and circled the ship. However, what we don't have is a body, and that's a problem because Steller was also really, really good at killing the animals he described so that he would have proof of them. Again, couple this with the fact that it was not recorded in the main journal with his other animals, and we have two hypotheses here. Hypothesis number one, it was a misidentified sea lion pup or possibly a fur seal pup. Sometimes their bodies can appear more unnaturally elongated due to their youth, their forelimbs are aimed a bit more backwards than their adult forms, and of course their caudal fin itself could resemble, the fin of a shark. Alternatively, it could have been a congenitally deformed fur seal, but that's also equally as likely. What I think is far funnier and far more likely therein is that Steller was not recording an actual animal, he was making fun of the sea captain that he was sailing with. Jorg Steller infamously hated this man, and this man infamously hated Steller. And since this captain had a very peculiar set of whiskers and a beard, and the way that Steller describes this sea ape has a similar beard and a wolf-like face, I would not be surprised if he was just having a laugh at the expense of the captain, only to die before he could reveal the joke. The Luska is one of my personal favorite cryptids, but is also one of the most misattributed cryptids due to the etymology of its name. But first, the Luska is said to inhabit the blue holes off the coast of the Bahamas, blue holes being large, subterranean aquatic tunnels that lead to the ocean, downwards of several hundred, maybe even several thousand feet. We legitimately do not know how far down these tunnels go, nor the full extent of where they tread beneath the ocean, simply that sometimes they surface in the middle of the Bahamas, in the middle of the islands, sometimes in the middle of the floor of the ocean, sometimes in the middle of reefs. There's really no set end goal for them, they're just everywhere in the Bahamas. And the Luska is said to be a large predatory predatory cryptid that lives within these blue holes and preys on people. Every couple of years, we'll get a report about a teenager or a tourist or a local who goes missing after swimming in these blue holes, most often attributed to the Lusca. And the problem is that the Lusca is oftentimes described as being an octopus shark. You know, like that stupid Sharktopus movie that ruined the whole idea of this. But it's not that. It's, if anything, it's just an octopus. I think it's just a regular octopus. Octopi are incredibly intelligent, incredibly resilient, and incredibly long-lived. They could absolutely grow to this size, at least in my opinion. There have been reports of octopus mantles that have washed up on shore on the island of Andros, where a lot of these blue holes are located, and this mantle indicated an octopus that was at minimum 20 feet long, which is so much larger than any octopus that we know of native to the region. The theory that it's just a regular octopus that grows to a massive size has also been corroborated by Jeremy Wade, you know, the host of River Monsters, the guy so good at fishing they had to cancel River Monsters because he caught every river monster. The whole shark octopus thing also ruined any image searching for the Lusca because now it's just flooded with AI art bullcrap. So here you go, a picture of a giant Pacific octopus because I think this is the best analogy we have for a real-life Lusca. The NASA sky serpent is simply one of a multitude of sky serpents or sky snakes that have been spotted around the world. Very simply and hilariously described as big snakes in the wrong place. There is really not a lot to go off of when it comes to these sorts of cryptids, just that they are bizarre snake-looking phenomenon seen in the sky. Some believe them to be proof of dragons, some believe them to be proof of UFOs or some sort of a bizarre UFO-type craft. Most believe them to be hoaxes, especially this photo that NASA took, but I think, above all else, there's one explanation that's infinitely funnier and infinitely scarier. It's this guy. We all know it's him. The conrit is an oceanic cryptid off the coast of Vietnam, and it is just a horrifying 150-foot-long sea centipede. Possessing a segmented body, several fins all down this segmented body, and large pincer-like mouth parts, it's a centipede. It's a centipede that can swim. Like many sea monsters and sea cryptids, it has been cited since antiquity. And initial research into this cryptid was conducted by Dr. A. Krempf, a director of Oceanographic and Fisheries Service of Indochina in the 1920s. It was during his research that he came across different witnesses and testimonies of the conrit, including a beached carcass that came ashore in 1833, one that was said to be 60 feet long. There's also a supposed report from 1899 when the HMS Narcissus reported seeing a large 135-foot-long specimen off the coast of Algeria. However, in spite of this distance from its homeland, the conrit is still most popularly seen in the South Vietnam Ocean, and it is still seen to this day. Explanations for this creature run wild, the most popular of which is just that it is a misidentification of a whale, which sure, okay. Although the infinitely more horrifying prospect of it, and I say more horrifying in comparison to a centipede, so that's how you know it's scary, is that the conrit is a giant bobbit worm. Translated from Swahili and meaning batwing, the Popobawa is a cycloptic, bat-like evil spirit from the islands of Pemba and Zanzibar off the coast of Tanzania. While it is most commonly described as a cycloptic bat, it is a shapeshifter and can take on numerous different forms, oftentimes attacking households at night. Occasionally, during these attacks, there is the presence of a sulfurous odor, although this is not always the case, nor is it always corroborated by witnesses. In addition to this, it is also associated with various poltergeist-like activities, slamming doors, opening windows, moving objects around the house when nobody's home, that sort of thing. It is also specifically noteworthy for... Hang on, let me just double check this. What it does something at night. Let me just check what it does. Oh, that's not right. Coming from the Moluccas Islands in Indonesia, orang bati is a chiropteran cryptid said to be part bat and part ape. Now, with this description, it is often given more of an ape-like visage, which makes it strikingly different from the ahul from the nearby island of Java. In spite of this difference, however, they are still quite similar in terms of their behavior and the times of day they fly and how they act towards humans. Orang bati has been cited since the 1600s when the Moluccan natives would speak to Christian missionaries about this large flying demonic entity that would attack their village at night and steal their children. These legends also continue to perpetuate into the modern day with some of the more remote villages on the Moluccas Islands. In fact, in the 1980s, a missionary by the name of Tyson Hughes had a first-hand encounter with the orang bati, which firmly set settled in him a belief in the cryptid. Now, while they are quite aggressive and will abduct children according to the legends, Orang Bati otherwise is quite the shy cryptid and not likely to be seen by people, especially not during the day. Pretty bog standard bat cryptid. The Bear Lake monster is a 40-foot long reptilian alligator-like cryptid coming to us from Bear Lake on the Utah-Idaho border because, damn it, there had to be something in Idaho worth seeing. I'm joking, I don't actually know what's in Idaho. Originally coming from 19th century writings from Joseph C. Rich, a Mormon missionary in the area, the Bear Lake monster has been predominantly believed to be a misidentified species, most likely either a sturgeon or a paddlefish. Although there are some other more fascinating explanations here. There are some who believe it to be just a large alligator that got misplaced in the state, and while it's not exactly likely that one managed to get all the way up to Idaho, I wouldn't be surprised if it was like an escaped pet or something. Alligators are a native species to the United States, and they can grow to rather impressive sizes, so I wouldn't be surprised to know that this was an alligator. There's also an absolutely weird theory that this is either an extant mosasaur or an extant basilosaurus, which was an extinct species of whale from the Miocene. It's also worth noting that I heard about this cryptid first of all from Lost Tapes, and this is yet another video where I mention Lost Tapes on this channel. It is also hilariously worth noting that Pecos Bill fought this cryptid, so that is absolutely points in its favor. Bioducks doesn't actually have to do with ducks, it just kind of sounds like a duck. For more clarification, bioduck was the name given to a series of unknown underwater noises recorded off the coast of Antarctica, so it's very similar to Julia, Upsweep, and the Bloop that I've already covered. But what's even more fascinating about bioducks is that it sounded very much like a duck underwater, like a quacking sound. And then we solved it. In 2014, an Antarctic research vessel recorded the sound again. It has been consistently heard since 1960. However, in 2014, they finally saw the culprits. They figured out that it was a pod of Antarctic minke whales. Honestly, I love when these sort of cryptid mysteries get solved because it's always either a simple explanation or an unbelievable explanation. And this one, it's more simple and it's more reasonable, but still, I'm just kind of glad that this one got solved, you know? This is not what I meant when I said I wanted more plant-based cryptids. This is the pot Sasquatch. It crashed a news broadcast in Western Massachusetts. There is not much to this one beyond the fact that it's somebody, I think, just celebrating the legalization of pot, and they replicated the Patterson-Gimlin walk in the middle of a news broadcast in the middle of a blizzard. Although I will say, when I read Pot Sasquatch for the first time, the exact first thing I thought of was Ceci the Sasquatch on YouTube, and I love that guy. Oh, my name is Ceci. Oh, my Sasquatch, mate. Air rods. Oh boy, here we go. Air rods, also known as atmospheric rods or sky rods, are aerial phenomenon completely invisible to the naked human eye. As in, we only ever see them on recorded video after the fact. This has been a video phenomenon that was first noticed in the 1990s, but has been seen basically daily since then in recorded videos. And there are a wide range of absolutely outlandish theories for what these are. Some claim that they are complete fifth-dimensional beings passing through our plane of existence. Some people think they're ghosts. Some people think they're a collection of spirit orbs. There's theories that they are a yet-to-be-identified species of insect. And there's also much more reasonable explanations like they are just insects being recorded by the videos and being buffered by interlacing footage. What makes it so hard to determine what they are really is just the fact that they are seen globally and in such a wide mass of sightings. There are dozens of them every day. And this is across the world. Anywhere there are home video cameras, photographs, and videos of these things exist. But the explanation for them is probably just super simple. They might just be regular ass insects being recorded on interlaced video footage. But I think this deserves their own deep dive video. They're kind of cool. So Gambo is an absolute trip. Buckle up, kids. Gambo is the name of a globster cryptid that washed up on the shore of Bungalow Beach in the Gambia. It was discovered by 15-year-old Owen Burnham and his family on the morning of June the 12th, 1983. Now, Owen himself did not have a camera on his possession, nor did he own one to begin with, so instead he simply drew the carcass and took very carefully detailed notes about it as he was a budding naturalist. It's also noteworthy that, according to later testimony, he did not think to take a sample of the creature because he simply just did not think of it, and he did not end up thinking of this concept until after he realized he could not identify the creature in any book that he found at the library or in his home. Local villagers that Owen talked to simply described the creature as being a dolphin, but he was quite skeptical of that fact. It is also worth noting that the local villagers decapitated the corpse, sold its 4.5-foot long head to a tourist, and then buried the rest of the body under what would eventually become a nightclub. This entire incident was recorded by Carl Schuker, who spoke to Owen regarding it. This is just a whole ass trip and really kind of highlights the absolute buffoonery that goes on in the world of cryptozoology. I will say, though, that Owen's notes about the carcass, its dimensions, its weight, its length, its size, all of that is incredibly detailed and incredibly well organized. If you were to ask me, I would say this is some sort of unidentified species of beaked whale because, man oh man, are beaked whales absolutely bizarre. But aside from that, we don't know what Gambo is. Poor guy. The Sulkalu, also known as the Slant-Eyed Giant, is a Cherokee legend of Sasquatch coming to us from North and South Carolina. Yes, this is in fact the Cherokee Devil from the Mountain Monsters TV show. Sulkalu is particularly notable for having two very specific traits. Number one, it's incredibly aggressive to dogs, and number two, it apparently possesses psychic powers, including the ability to take over somebody's mind, make them confused or stunned, or to hold them in place telekinetically. Among all the legends of Sasquatch, I think Sulkalu has some of the most fascinating and definitely some of my favorite ones. The Cherokee definitely hold this creature in reverence, and I absolutely adore reading myths and stories about the Sulkalu. And I do find this particular episode of Mountain Monsters to be one of the funniest ones. Check it out, please. And finally, to round off this tier, we have the Fiskerton Phantom from Lincolnshire, England. The Fiskerton Phantom is described as being an alien big cat type creature that was first spotted in 1997 by 4 girls between the ages of 9 and 14. According to these girls, they witnessed this 4-foot tall, jet black, weird cat monster in a public park. It had a similar appearance to both a bear and a panther, despite standing on 2 legs, and was seen eating a pheasant in the park. The girls, upon seeing the creature, were of course startled, and when the creature took notice of them, they fled the scene, running immediately to seek help in a local pub. When they had returned with a crowd of onlookers, I would assume, they found nothing to report for the beast except for large paw prints that seemed both human and yet cat-like. This creature was then spotted again later in the evening by a separate motorist not far from the park where the girls first witnessed it eating the bird. Beyond that, we don't have much about the Fiskerton Phantom. It has not been seen since then, but it was made into one of the main characters of the Secret Saturdays TV show, so here he is, good boy Fisk. He was a cutie pie. I loved this show. And that will do it for Tier 6 of the Cryptid Iceberg. I would once again like to thank everybody for watching, and please be sure to like and comment down below things you liked about this video, cryptids you want to see more of, ideas for the future, icebergs maybe that you want to see me conquer. I have plenty of ideas already cooked up in my book. This book right here already has a couple of video ideas for the future, not just including the Cryptid Iceberg, but I'm always happy to add more ideas to the pile. In addition to this, Ignite Recall has officially started its Season 2 run, so please be sure to tune in at 7 p.m. Mountain Time, 9 p.m. Eastern if you want to see me bumble around in space with a Brooklyn accent over on the Magi RPG Twitch channel. We also stream it live on the Magi RPG YouTube channel. And as always, once again, thank you for watching. I appreciate you all. Have a good evening. God bless. Ciao for now.
Okay, rude.
Huh? What's up? Yeah, that's what I thought. Pussy.